Welcome back to ThreadWatch. Have you been keeping up? Today's episode is intended for entertainment purposes only. Most of these things aren't true. Probably. What is cannibalism and why is it a old world order thing? What is getting shanghaied and what does it mean? There are dozens of reasons to traffic in humans. They are infinitely more profitable than trafficking in any other thing, even gold or nuclear materials. It has always existed, and as long as people don't eternally prosecute that evil, it will continue to exist. It's a battle that never ends. Every generation will have people who rise to power and figure out that they can do it, or that it might be possible and might work, and then makes it happen. Devil convincing you it doesn't exist. Maybe each group doesn't touch down with a millennia-old institution that may or may not exist that controls all of civilization, but the idea that each institution doing this is not trying to get to that point is laughable. Each Illuminati group is trying to get itself beyond the cycles of cataclysm. The next extinction event, they want to retain all their science and knowledge and use it to rule over you. The fact that this is their motivation should tell you that you need to treat it as an ongoing conspiracy, because that's what it intends to be. Is the Illuminati that orchestrated the Great Recession and World War I the same faction that orchestrates all of our bulls, Susan, today 100 years later in 2020? It wants to be that permanent, and that's all you need to know. Human trafficking has always existed. Modern Susana's organ trade is more or less common knowledge by now, but I always thought that was for just monetary gain. Is there anything esoteric to it or something that connects with other parts of the NWO? So you think that the Susanis are competing with other parts of the NWO, rather than cooperating or even being connected to them? Both. That's how the whole Illuminati works. It's a king of the hill on a mountain of mud. If the pinnacle looks weak, then other will make a move. That's how most criminal syndicates work, except for ones with religious commandments, which is where Satanism and other institutions succeed. For instance, without the corruption of the Catholic Church, Judaism and Satanism, without the FBI taking out the mafia at a critical point, the 'Ndrangheta could never rise to power. The pinnacle always pretends to be thousands of years old, and claims to know the true history of man. Another thing that people don't think about is where this opponent is. Communists talk about taking the money from them as if it's sitting around in bank accounts. Really, the money is in play, it's everywhere and in everything. The same with the agents. They are everywhere, and in everything, including the earth. You think you could get a team together and assault some castle, take out a lord and get some gold and rescue some kids. That won't work, because they are underground. Like you said about Susana's organ trade, more or less common knowledge. So are the bunkers for the elites, but this is young money. The real elite use ancient catacombs and natural cave systems that have existed for thousands of years. There are tunnels underneath each city, and this is where the enemy really is. You would have to map the tunnels, invade them, cut them off, clear them piece by piece, and then reinforce them and hold them. That would be a huge effort. The population of subterranean populations is 100 million. 30 million are slaves. The memes about inner Earth are funny, it's real but not a donut shape. It's caves. Hell is real too. The megacity down there is a problem. Over 28 battalions have been trained to fight underground, but it may not be enough. A lot of commanders think they will not see that kind of combat, but they will. They are going down there. This is going to take years. However, the beer angle is not well known about. Haven't you noticed that beer brewers have royal seals on their work? The seal also say things like, established in 1800 whatever. Well, if you have a population to feed, why would you bake so much bread? Bread goes bad. If you brew beer, it will last much longer. Ale is like liquid bread. If you brew it correctly, it can be very heavy and full of carbs. You can sort of feed people like that, and keep them sort of drunk and malleable. So each royal family will brew beer for their people, to keep them fed and drunk and stupid. But who is the crest for, if the beer is for the pleb? The crest is for the royal. An elite abroad today knows just where to buy his pizza, and where not to buy it. You don't want mystery meat pizza, or maybe you do. You won't know what is in each person or in each city-state's beer without seeing the royal crest on it. When an elite walks into a bar and sees a certain crest, he knows the cattle in the bar belong to a certain family, and that the beer they drink was made just for them, to make them more consumable during human trafficking. You wouldn't want to drink a certain faction's beer if you knew who made it and how they like to do business. The acorn that the reclaimer bears, the mystic Susaning pinecone you all can't decipher, is hops. The secret of taking a fledgling agricultural society and turning its bread into beer and its free people into your personal cattle. The other thing about the royal crest on the beer is understanding where those people will go if they are shanghaied through a trapdoor in a bar. They serve a certain beer with a certain crest, so you can see what family is taking the people who disappear, so you will know who is boss as you travel around. It's out in the open, just their style. I would also like to add that there are several types of tunnels, not just trapdoors in bars and saloons that take people. There are natural cave systems, there are border tunnels, there are underground military bases, there are vacuum-sealed hypertransport tunnels, there are underground scientific institutes, there are historical architectural catacombs like Seattle or almost all of Europe and Asia, there are subway and train tunnels, there are secret society tunnels, there are underground railroad tunnels. Every faction occupied tunnels at some point, and/or cut new ones. As various allied forces engage with tunnel snakes under the guise of counter-narcotics operations and counter-human trafficking ops, eventually the battalions will be exposed to things they were not supposed to see. Children and rumors of children that are happening right now are one thing. But there are allegedly other facilities. It's entirely possible that a breach team makes it into a biolab and catches a disease, then they have to seal the tunnel. They could also find monsters, and I don't mean zombies in the sense of Resident Evil, but monsters in the sense of Resident Evil. Genetically engineered animals. It will be almost impossible to contain certain things, and the deaths in these tunnels will be catastrophic. It will take decades to clear them all and map them and disclose them. I'd almost rather fill them all up with concrete, but a lot of the deepest tunnels are over 12,000 years old. There is more to gain, from the government's perspective, to turn hell into an archaeological dig. So be it. You are sharing conspiracies of a fifth age, filled with magic and monsters, wondering when and where they will come from. They were under your feet the whole time. You thought being a paladin or a warrior of light would mean confronting people, face to face, and it does mean that. It also means climbing into something the size of an air duct to literally fight demons in the dark. The human horrors are bad enough. The scene in the movie The Road, where they find the people being kept alive in the basement for food, that's what some of these tunnels are like. There may have been a large gallery with a large entrance and a complex network, but it was sealed off except for an air tunnel that's 1,000 feet long and only 10 inches by 10 inches. The Marines had to climb through natural caves for 6 hours just to find the 10-inch portal. So they get a small drone and send it down there, and when it pops out the other side it's a room and people are screaming and roaring, but the drone has no visual. The thing is, the people wouldn't be screaming unless the drone went down there. They could have been down there for years, surviving on their own excrement, chewing their own arms off, babbling to each other. There are even babies conceived and born in these conditions. They even grow up and turn into little monsters. Thermals reveal what is really going on. There are no windows, no doors, no lights, no tables, no furniture, just bodies, crawling and writhing on top of each other like snakes in a pit. Rescue is a strong word. In The Road, when they opened the door, the people tried to Susaning eat him and pull him in just as much as they tried to escape. The sight of them, their skin, their eyes, their deformities, scars a person for life. There are 32 million like that down there, if you believe the 28 battalions that are running ops down there. They actually set off detonations that mimic earthquakes. The shock waves makes very unique incidental harmonics because of the long and straight modern machine-cut tunnels. On a seismograph, it's unlike any other curve you've ever seen. Even an earthquake wobbles back and forth, and it dissipates. Tunnel shockwaves roll in one smooth motion from one end to the other, which is how you find them. You would think that they could use thermal or ground-penetrating radar or even X-ray or something, satellites, to find the tunnels and the people down there. However, with the other billions of us on the surface driving around, working and living, you can't discern what is on the terrain and what is subterranean. You would have to stop the whole world and tell them to go home in order to use machines to image the tunnels from outside. I honestly don't think that's what is happening here though. Like I said, rescue is a strong word. These people won't have a language, they won't fundamentally understand anything and will be completely feral. You can't put them on TV, they don't understand. You would think that missing children who remember what it was like to take the Pledge of Allegiance is like would remember home, but those kids are taken for programs that end in death. Most are sacrificed, others cut apart and sent out to organ trafficking, some kept for breeding programs or genetic modification. It's too much of a liability to take a viable critical thinking surface dweller and put them in these systems. They might find a way out or lead the others. Not there is anywhere to go, in the case of the 10 inches chute. When the faction that put them there lost power, they probably sealed it up just to torture them some more, and who knows how long they have really been down there. Even after blasting towards it, the experience of reaching the gallery is only more and more frightening for the Marines. The closer they get to the gallery, the louder their absolutely chilling screams and noises become. As you get to the last 20 feet of the chute, all you can see is arms reaching into it, clawing at each other, peeling at skin and biting. All you see is teeth and disfigured hellish faces. The Marines don't want to breach to completion. The horde in the gallery will attack and try to eat them or something. As you watch the portal through a spotlight, you can smell them. The instinct to take your weapon system to condition 0 is unlike anything you will ever experience in your life. Just witnessing the teeming mass of not human causes shock in hardened veterans and causes foxhole conversions in the psych champion who now openly prays to God, murmuring not under his breath but out loud. You can't experience these things. Fighting this level of evil, and the opponent isn't even there to take the blows, it really destroys you. These things stop you from sleeping at night. Knowing what really happens to the 800,000 missing children in the United States every year. Knowing that it happens right below your feet, and you try to drown your sorrows, but the sigil on Budweiser is the same sigil on the tunnels that give you the worst nightmares, the ones you have while you are still awake. Let me make one thing clear, if you are a warrior of light, then it was your destiny to descend into these cramped tunnels like Master Chief in some American power armor and eviscerate whatever lies in front of you. Don't you find it odd that in fantasy settings for hellscapes, a paladin or other righteous character frees lost souls or saves them, in hell, by vanquishing them? You kill them, that's how you rescue them. You can't bring them out, they bit you, they roar, they drool, they growl. They are animals. They hiss and bare their teeth, they fling excrement at you. Even if you put them in a cage, you can't reform them. The stuff you see in mental institutions is nothing compared to what happens underground, and the Allied forces did not expect these levels of horrors. When the enemy says, "Think of the children," tongue-in-cheek, that's a cold scare to the warriors of light, because you can't not think about them. The walking nightmares. Set a few free and you've got a real skinwalker. That's where the monsters come from. That's why you have an instinctive fear of long, skinny, deformed, malnourished, naked, white-fanged freaks. So the question of Susana's relationship to the NWO, and how old and deep that relationship really is answered with cannibalism. The Susanese have been subjugated for so long that cannibalism is mainstream. They regularly consume humans, especially babies and urine. There are periods of Susana's history where the archival material is missing, for hundreds of years. We have no idea who farmed them or why and for how long. But we do know that it happened for so long that if you disclose the cannibalistic tunnels beneath the Forbidden City that date all the way to before Persia, the Susanese people will laugh about it, and cook another fetus. That's how deep they are with the old world order, that you can't tell the difference between the Satanists, the NWO, the Illuminati, the Deep State, the Susanese. You can't tell any of them apart at the level Susana exists on. Hell is a real place, and you can go down there and fight the demons. That's the real red pill of human civilization. Susana is the eternal reservoir of this evil. Even when the Europeans in Germany were equivalent to cavemen and were scared Susanless of Romans, and neither of them knew about the Americas, Susana had full access to transcontinental human trafficking networks. Their world never underwent the last cataclysm. That's how old Susana's relationship with this entity really is. The last cataclysm covered the American structures in mud, and the floodwaters carved out the Grand Canyon. In Egypt, those same floodwaters ripped the casing stones off the pyramids. Susana was barely hit. Their operation didn't stop at all. They had access to the Atlantic network the whole time. That's how deep the relationship is. That's all you really need to know. You can't fight that ultimate and ancient evil without getting to Susana in the end, just like you can't breach tunnels in the Middle East without getting at the dead end. Thanks for watching. See you on the boards.